Confidence is not a fluke, confidence is a choice, and it begins with our mindset. In this podcast, you will find a variety of research proven strategies that will lead you from being self critical, your worst enemy, to being the most confident version of yourself. I am Olga, former therapist, confidence life coach, blissfully an IVF mother, a wife, and this is the Journey to Happy podcast. Hello, everybody. I hope you're doing really well. I am happy to be here meeting you once again on a Monday. Okay, so I've got a few things that I wanted to get off my chest, and I am recording at 7:49 at night after putting my son to bed, and I am coming so inspired because we just had one of the best nighttime routine together, and it included my husband, and Mateo was laughing so hard. So his last moments before going to bed were moments of running around playing with his mom and dad, and he went to bed so easily, so happy, said goodbye to the dogs, kissed both of us goodnight, and we haven't heard from him since. That's not always the case. Often he wants to stay a little bit longer. He's just turned 2, so he gives us a bit of a hard time wanting to be independent and making his own rules. But not tonight. And so that brought me back to a conversation that I was having with a good friend of mine, also a coach. You guys heard her talk to me here at a previous episode, Caitlin, and she is the CEO of Mother Nurture, and so she coaches moms specifically. And a while back, she sent this beautiful email where she was asking her readers how will their kids remember them. And I'm just going off track here for a second, but it is relevant to what we are going to be talking today, and you'll see how it all is connected and ties up nicely. Her email spoke to me so much. She's essentially describing parenting as this phase of life that goes by so quickly, especially when we're actually building important memories for our children. When we're going about our everyday, we're teaching them and we are creating memories, whether we are aware of them or not. And so her email speaks of that. And so she was asking a few questions that I'm going to share with you because I think everybody should be asking themselves these questions. Who are we to our kids? As they grow up and age and start to see us as individuals and not just mom, who will they see? Have you ever stopped to think about that? And then she goes on to ask more questions. What does your baby say about you? What do they remember about how you spent your time? What were you really into? What will they say that you were really into? What will they say you valued most? And most importantly, how did you make them feel? So if you're like me and your children are very young, it's easy to not think those thoughts. And I so appreciated this email because it made me take a pause into my already established routine and ask myself, wait a second, am I actively thinking every step of the way about how my actions, how my behaviors, how my values are shaping the image of me to my son? And what is that? So if Mateo could describe his mom, what will he say is her favorite drink? What will he say is the thing that she valued most? And one thing that really popped up for me is that he will probably say that something I value a lot is my phone. And you guys, I was not happy about that. Not even for a second. Because to me, my phone equals work. And here I claim and I want to be so balanced between work and family life. But if I was to think about what my son would say I value most, I would imagine that he thinks my phone is something very important to me because I go with it everywhere, because I constantly check it, because I'm constantly in it, on it, close to it, with it. And so I didn't do this reflection, and I'm definitely not inviting you to do this reflection so that you can feel guilty, nor did I feel guilty. But I became aware. And so my friend Caitlin suggested you create a list of how you want to be remembered. And so since then, I definitely decided that the memories, the things that I want Mateo to think are important to me are not much of what I currently unaware was giving so much importance to. For example, my phone. For example, showing Mateo that having fun is more important than having an organized home, or that visiting the grandparents is more important than sticking to our bedtime routine, that being spontaneous is fun. And so how am I showing that to him? Which is also a question I often ask my clients is, how are you telling your children in behaviors that they have permission to take care of themselves? If you think about it, when we're taking care of our children, by doing all the things that we do for them, we're teaching them how to take care of others. But rarely do we step away and say, okay, now is my time. I'm going to now exercise, or I'm going to go now with my friends and have fun. And you get to stay, because we feel guilty and bad. And so we're not really modeling for them how to take care of themselves, which is something that I had been aware since before becoming a mom. And so it's very present in my life. I feel that Mateo will know how to take care of himself because my husband and I really modeled that for him. But what about all the other things? So it got me thinking, I really want him to know how much I love my country, Colombia, and how much I want him to feel part Colombian. So it got me really thinking, like, how can I bring culture even more into what we do? I want him to know that I love yoga and breath work. You guys, what were we doing tonight? We were doing yoga. It's one of his favorite things to do. It lasts a total of 2 minutes max. But he does downward facing dog very well. He loves the breathing. He knows, like, he's getting it. And so I just love that he's excited about it now. I think he's excited because he feels my passion for it. I also want him to know how much I love his dad. And I shared that with my husband, and we both agree that it's important for him to see us be playful and kissing and having conversations. And so we're making more of an effort to spontaneously have those moments in front of him. And I know that sounds funny, making an effort to be spontaneous, but I think that he takes so much of the attention when we're together that it's important to dedicate some of that attention to my husband and I in front of Mateo. And you know what? He loves it. He's like, wow, my parents are playing, they're dancing, this is fun. He wants to be a part of it. I also want him to know how important family is. And so how can I show him that? I visit my mom or my dad, like my parents, they live together, or my in-laws at least once a week, and my sister. And I really make an effort for him to see that we love them, that we spend time with them, that we cook for them, we host them. That matters to me. So tonight was a special night because I had my husband worked a bit late, so I had supper with Mateo, and then I started his bath. My husband finished it, and then he asked for yoga, and so we did some yoga. And then my husband, who is not a yoga guy, brought in the basketball, and we all played basketball with him in our living room. So don't worry, he's two. Remember, he's not. He's a baby still. And then we watched a bit of a Christmas movie, and the last thing we did was tickle him and follow him as he started this game around the living room. He was sweating of how much he was laughing and how much he was running around. And quite honest, I was sweating a bit too. And so finally 7 o'clock came in and we told him his bedtime. He grabbed his bottle, he went with his dad, said goodnight, and he went to bed. I was left with such a beautiful, warm feeling in my chest and in my heart. And I think it's so much gratitude that I get to have these moments with him. I can only imagine, how did he go to bed tonight? What were his last thoughts? And I don't know that children think like us, like they go to bed with thoughts, but they certainly go with emotions. And I know for a fact that he went to bed satisfied. His parents played with him. Bonding with our children happens mostly through play. And so for me, I want Mateo to remember me as the mom who had time, energy, and willingness to play, because his love language, like all children, is through play. They build relationship through play. So that really matters to me. And so now Caitlin, if you're listening to this podcast, I gave all the credit to you. I actually read your email and I stopped and I wrote down all these things that really mattered to me, and I welcome you to do that. And now at 3:30, when I pick up Mateo, I put my phone away. I forget about my phone. And it is not only super pleasant for me to not be attached to what's going on everywhere, but it also has allowed me to have a greater connection to him. And I meet his eyes when he's looking at me, and we have great conversations. We just have moments with him or with other people that we're with. And so it's a lot more fun and something that I'm proud of, because it just took that sitting down and thinking like, oh my God, to think that he will probably think my phone is the most important thing just made me sad. I much rather he thinks yoga is the most important thing, or eating food, or like something else, not my phone. So all of that story and reflection, and really an invitation to reflect, because today when I was coaching some of my Becoming the CEO ladies, one of them shared a story where after our call, I actually coached her during the call, and she was struggling with a thought that was not helpful, that made her really doubt her sense of value and how much she brings to the table at work. And so throughout doing my process of, I call it thought work, because then we just change thoughts. And there's a whole process to doing that. And these ladies become very familiar with that process. We came up with a new thought. And her new thought was, I'm doing my best. I am enough. I am doing my best and I am enough. And so she came to share with us that the next morning, before she woke up, she was dreaming that she was repeating this mantra. She's in Abu Dhabi, so I'm in Canada. She's in a complete different time zone. So by the time we had the call, it was actually nighttime. It was just before she went to bed. And she was very inspired. And because she got to be coached during that call, she got like some of my undivided attention. And those were like, that was the phrase that she wrote down, the thought that she wrote down, and that we agreed she will work towards believing. You know, a belief is just a thought we've repeated many times. So that's what she's all about. She's beginning to believe that she's enough, and that who she is as she is brings value no matter where she goes. That's thinking behind repeating that thought. So she calls it a mantra, because the job is to repeat this every day, sort of like a mantra or like a prayer. So she's telling us that before she woke up, she was having the dream that she was repeating this mantra. She thought it was interesting. Now I know the explanation to that, and that's what made me want to come here. So there is a moment before we fall asleep, that transition between being awake and falling asleep. There is a period of time, is really fast. You guys know this about children as well. This is how we transfer knowledge, where the brain kind of reviews your thoughts, your knowledge of the day, and begins to pass it on to your unconscious mind. And so it stays there, right? It's like behind the scenes of how your mind works. For her, just before bedtime, we did this work. So she went to bed with a strong thought, one that is actually going to be helpful to her. The next morning, she told us that she woke up after that dream and she went and did something that she's been meaning to do ever since she moved to Abu Dhabi. And she moved there by herself. And she was too afraid to do it. It was complicated and it was a bold move. But she felt capable, and she went and she did it. And she tells us that when she came back home, she actually said out loud, "I'm so proud of you," to herself. And she tells us that she can't remember the last time that she genuinely felt proud of herself. To me, she's telling us this story. I understand what's happening behind the scenes. She has no idea. She's simply just saying, I had a win. And if I could ask her what made her do the bold action and finally have the courage to go do the thing she's been saying she would like to do, but deep inside she's also been believing she can't, she wouldn't be able to tell me what I am here to share with you. What happened is that she went from having what I call a limiting belief, a thought that limits her ability to see beyond that thought, that limits her ability to think that she can, that limits her behaviors, that limits her interactions and connection and limits her. Okay. She went from having a thought that said, I am not doing enough, to really agreeing that the thought was so unhelpful that it needed to be changed. So throughout our coaching and following the process of thought that I teach, she decided that it was in her best interest to think differently. This so happened to be one of her last thoughts before that transition that goes between, like that drift, when we know that we drift into sleep. She probably went thinking about that, and it got stored into her unconscious mind. And her unconscious mind, we are led by our unconscious mind, believe it or not. This is why we want to be so aware of what information we're storing there. So she stores this in her unconscious mind. And what happens the next day? She feels different. She goes from feeling disappointed on herself and how much she does to feeling capable and with the energy and the courage to do something that would have been scary before that work. So here's what's so important for you to remember. The thoughts you have during your life, during your waking moments, lead to results. Look around. Everything that you see right at this moment, you brought into your life because you bought it, because it was a gift and you received it, because you thought it would be a good idea to have that or to have these people in your life, and it's there. You materialize that. It all started with one thought. I'm looking at a purple chair that I have that I love. I want a comfortable purple chair. That thought led me to going shopping. That behavior led me to acquiring the chair and the feeling that comes with it, right? Like now I'm like, I love this chair. I bought it out of like intentionality. I know I wanted it. I went looking for it. So everything that we have in our lives, good or bad, it started it, brought it with a thought. Now, when it comes to beliefs, it means we've had that thought a million times. And so when we want to manifest something, it's not just one thought, it's also massive action that goes behind that. So when you do thought work, when you recognize, when you become aware that you're having thoughts that are not helpful, you have a choice. And the choice is, what am I going to do about this thought? Am I going to keep cultivating it? Am I going to pretend that it's not there? Or I'm going to bring some massive action to change it so that my behavior changes, my feelings change, my identity changes. What happened to my client is, you saw it. It happens fast if we want it to happen fast, if we're ready for it. And she's going to have to keep working at it. She's going to have to keep repeating that thought because it brought her good results. She liked the results. She could keep having this thought. I am doing my best. I am enough. If you are like me and you have a really overreactive mind, sometimes bedtime is not your best time. You have thoughts that are terrifying, or you sit there to just have you ever, like, this happens to me. It happened to me this week. You sit there and you're like, what could I worry about today? And your brain kind of gives you a menu of things that in the past has stressed you out. And it's like, will this make you stressed today? And I take it or leave it. But at nighttime, my ability to leave things behind is not as good as during the daytime. And that makes sense because back in the day when we lived in caves, nighttime is when larger predators go hunting and we humans were at a greater risk. So in general, most of us, are more prone to anxiety at nighttime. So if you ever wonder why it's always at night that you feel so anxious or worried, or that you have the worst thoughts, or that your problems seem 3 times bigger, that's why. So if we are going to bed and you're like me and you're thinking all the things that worry you, what do you think gets stored into your unconscious mind? Those thoughts. And so what we're doing is reinforcing our fears. And so I go to bed and I am thinking, oh my God, what if an earthquake happens. And then I start having all these thoughts. Well, that's going to go to my unconscious mind. And what it's going to do is just keep growing my fear of earthquakes. So if an earthquake does end up happening, I will have so little ability in the moment to stay calm because I've been freaking out about it for a very long time, storing in my mind the thought that says, hey, that is extremely unsafe. You will probably die, or something crazy like that. I want to invite you to do what I did tonight. Just like I said, I don't really know what my son thinks about at night because he's too little, but I know that I could influence how he feels. And I most definitely want to influence that I want his end of day to be calm and happy. And that is so possible, so easy to achieve. And I get into the zone myself. I want to be having fun. I want to be calm. So I dim the lights in my house. I play soft music. It begins to be just like a fun time. I bring him to my bed before his bed, and we just read books or watch parts of a movie or a show. And it's just him and I holding hands. I just love it. I want to influence his end of night because of this reason. I want to store into his brain safe, happy, good feelings. Does that make sense? I hope it does. Now, I will make a disclaimer right now because if you are an anxious human like me, this is probably nerve-wracking. You're like, oh my God, all the anxious thoughts I have, will they then come through? No, it doesn't mean that because you think about it and often that then suddenly your worst nightmare is going to come true. It simply means that when you're thinking about it, it's like you already are experiencing it. So in a way, it comes through in that moment. Because when you're sitting in your beautiful bed, full of health and surrounded by people that love you, like your husband is next to you, your children in their bed or whatever. If you don't have children, your dogs, if you don't have dogs, your parents, your siblings, people are around you that love you. And you sit down to you sit down to think in your mind that, oh my God, what if I get diagnosed with some kind of crazy illness? And that spirals down to more thoughts like that. And you're hearing me say this and you're thinking, what am I going to do? How can I undo my thoughts? Here's the good news. Just like when I read my friend's email, I didn't spend any time in guilt of, oh my God, I haven't stopped to think about this. I didn't even think, thank God my son is only 2 when I'm reading this email. I just thought, oh, this is great awareness. Because now I get to decide from this moment on, how do I want my interactions to be? I now can think, how do I want my son to remember me? As a wife, as a mom, as a human, like how do I want him to remember me? And that is exactly the message that I want to leave you with. What is the kind, like now that you know this information, that we pass information into our unconscious mind just seconds before we sleep, and that our last thoughts kind of are transferred. And so we have the ability to then put really fucking cool information in our unconscious mind, you guys. Like, think about it. You can put anything at that time. So I often tell my clients to write down thoughts that they want to believe and to say, like, to have them handy before bed and to read them. So I have that. And when I was very anxious at night, I had one that said, I am mentally healthy. And that just brought me to this happy place. And I would repeat that like a mantra as I was falling asleep. I'm mentally healthy and mentally strong. If finances is what's keeping you up at night, create some phrases that go around the safety of your finances. Money flows. All my needs are met. I am safe. My finances are safe. If what's keeping you up at night is issues in a relationship, just visualize that relationship becoming better and stronger, and bring to mind thoughts. And I will say, if you are anxious, write them down and read them to yourself. Your eyes are busy doing that, so your mind doesn't have a lot of time to doubt you. And even if it does doubt you, remember, I believe is a thought that was repeated many, many times till we believed it. So I wanted to leave you with that. Think of your bedtime routine. Think of how you can begin to make it fun, light, and easy with those around you. And if you live by yourself, oh my God, enjoy that alone time to unwind. What are the last things you do? What are you even watching or reading before going to bed? What are you storing into your unconscious mind? And become incredibly intentional of what you put into your mind just as you are drifting into your sleep. Okay, that's all I had to say today. I hope that is helpful. I definitely love using all of these little tools myself to create better results. That is it. And if you thought my friend's Caitlin's email was amazing, send me a message and I'm happy to forward that to you. I think is one of those emails that you keep and you review often to just go back into those questions. From my heart to yours, thank you so much for listening, and you will hear me next Monday. Confidence is about taking empowered action with consistency. If you are done wishing you had more confidence with fill out the blank, and if you're ready to put an end to the bully that lives inside your mind, I want to invite you to my next Detox the Mind 5-day workshop, where you will learn proven strategies to go from self-critical to self-confident. For $97, you get 5 days of live coaching calls with me, workbooks to go along with your lessons, and teachings that will literally transform your life. This workshop will break you free from the prison of your own thoughts. Our next workshop begins April 11th, and you can join the waiting list today. Head over to the show notes or my website and make sure you add your name so you can be notified as soon as we open for registrations. I hope to see you inside.